Tonight, the road stretches long and lonesome. The engine hums, the CB crackles, and somewhere in the dark, something waits. Out there beyond the headlights, past the quiet truck stops and glowing fuel signs, are tales most drivers never live to tell. So, park your rig, lock your doors, and join us by the fire, where the coffee's always hot, and the stories are cold as the grave. We're about to embark on a journey through 5 terrifying tales from the forgotten corners of America's highways, stories whispered by truckers at midnight, passed from one trembling voice to the next. 5 truck stops, 5 chances to never make it out alive. Let's begin. They call them lot lizards. Women who work truck stop parking lots at night, knocking on cab doors, offering favors for fast cash. Every driver knows the term. Most laugh it off. Some partake. Me? I keep my windows up and my doors locked. But one night in Arkansas, I made a mistake. It was just outside Texarkana, a muddy old stop off Route 67. I was ahead of schedule, needed rest, and my eyes were starting to play tricks. The place was mostly empty, one rig idling across the lot, and a flickering overhead light that made everything look like it was underwater. I killed the engine and climbed into the sleeper. I don't remember dozing off, but I must have, because the knock startled me bad. Tap, tap. Then again, a little louder. Tap, tap. I sat up. The curtain was drawn, but I saw the shadow of someone outside. A woman's voice, soft and sweet, came through the cracked window. "You lonely in there, sweetheart?" My heart raced. I didn't answer. She spoke again, this time more insistent. "It's cold out here. Can I come in and warm up?" I peeked through the curtain. She was standing right by my door. Blonde, thin, could have been 25 or 60. Pale skin that almost shimmered under the parking lot light. But something about her eyes. They didn't blink. Not once. I whispered, "No thanks," and reached for the ignition. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "You look just like the last one." My hand froze. "The last what?" I rolled down the window just an inch. "What did you say?" She smiled. It was too wide, too many teeth. "He screamed when I got in, but not for long." I slammed the window shut, turned the key. Nothing. The engine was dead. She knocked again, this time with both hands, faster, tap, tap, tap. Then silence. I dared to peek again. She was gone. I grabbed my flashlight, flung open the door and jumped out, scanning the lot. Empty. Except the rig idling across the lot, the one I thought was empty. Its door was wide open, and inside, slumped over the wheel, was a man. I ran to help him, but stopped dead when I got close. His throat had been torn out, not cut, ripped, and his cab smelled like rot and perfume. I didn't sleep that night. I called the cops, gave a report, and got the hell out of there. Never heard anything more. But a few weeks later, at a Love's in Tennessee, I overheard a driver talking. "She knocked on my window last night," he said. "Blonde, pale, didn't blink." I didn't say a word, just paid my bill and left. Now I park only at lit stops. I check my mirrors. I keep my doors locked tight. And if you ever hear a knock on your cab in the middle of the night, don't answer. Don't speak. Don't look, because not every lot lizard is human. I've been driving long haul for 15 years. From Buffalo to Bakersfield, I've seen it all. Whiteouts in Wyoming, flooded roads in Mississippi, even a tornado up close near Topeka. But nothing messed me up like what happened 2 months ago off I-80 near mile marker 44. That stretch through Nebraska is empty. No towns, no lights. Just cornfields, open sky, and static on the radio. It was around 2 a.m., and I was pushing hard to make Denver by morning. I'd been up too long, running on caffeine and stubbornness, when my rig started acting up. First, the dashboard lights flickered. Then the engine coughed, once, then twice, and I coasted to a stop on the shoulder. No cell signal, no radio, just wind. I popped the hood, hoping it was something simple. It wasn't. And I don't know what possessed me to look up just then, but I did. And about a quarter-mile ahead, I saw lights. Gas station lights. Neon red and green, flickering like a pulse. There shouldn't have been anything there. I had checked the route 3 times, but when you're stranded in the dark, you don't argue with a miracle. So I grabbed my flashlight and started walking. The place looked like it hadn't changed since 1979. A truck stop diner with chrome siding, a couple of old diesel pumps, and a big neon sign that buzzed louder the closer I got. Red Oak Station. A few semis were parked out front, and through the window I saw people inside the diner, eating, laughing, moving around like it was the middle of the day. I stepped in and everything stopped. Every head turned, every face stared. I nodded awkwardly and made my way to the counter. The waitress looked normal, if a little pale. Her name tag read Gloria. She poured me coffee without asking. I asked if there was a payphone. She pointed toward the back. Then she said, "You're not the first one to break down at 44. I didn't like how she said it. Like it was a foregone conclusion. Like I'd been expected. The phone was dead. Just a dial tone that sounded more like breathing. I came back to the counter, heart thudding. The other patrons were eating, but none of them were chewing, just miming it. Forks going to mouths, empty stares. I backed out of there fast and sprinted to the pumps, hoping maybe someone had a CB. That's when I saw it, my rig, parked in front of the diner, lights off, hood down, same license plate. I stood there, frozen. That was my truck. I had walked from it, but now it was sitting calmly, like it had been driven there. I got inside. My keys were in the ignition. I turned the engine, and it started right up. I didn't question it. I threw it into gear and got the hell out of there. Didn't even look back. But a few miles down the road, I passed mile marker 44 again, and again, and again. Now, I don't know how many nights I've been driving. I don't stop. I don't sleep. The road just keeps winding on. Every time I glance in the mirror, I see the diner lights behind me, getting closer. I think if I stop again, I'll walk in. And I'll never leave. So I keep driving, past mile marker 44, again, and again, and again. I'm old school. I still keep a CB radio in the rig, not for chatter, just in case something goes wrong where the cell don't reach. Static is usually all I hear these days, maybe the occasional bored trucker griping about traffic. But last fall, somewhere in Colorado between Rifle and Glenwood Springs, I picked up something different. It was late. The highway was dead quiet, mountains all around me like black waves frozen in stone. I was heading west, hauling auto parts, halfway through an overnight run when Channel 19 came to life. A man's voice, low, panicked. "Anybody out there? Please, please help me." I blinked. The road ahead was empty. I reached for the mic. "This is Bandit. What's your location over?" No response, just static. I tried again. Still nothing. Then a new voice. Same man, but weaker. "They locked me in the tanker. It's burning. I can't breathe." My stomach dropped. I pulled over at the next rest stop, one of those tiny half-forgotten ones with no fuel and a vending machine that hasn't worked since '93. There, parked alone under the single busted lamp, was a scorched-out fuel truck, blackened, hollowed, like it had been through hell and back. I approached the cab, flashlight trembling, no driver inside, just ash. Then the CB in my own rig crackled again. "I'm still here." I turned back. The burned-out truck's door was now open. I hadn't touched it. Inside, on the dash, was a melted CB unit. I got closer and saw something scratched into the plastic. "Channel 19, don't stop." I sprinted back to my truck, slammed the door, fired up the engine. As I pulled away, the voice came through again. "Please, Bandit, don't leave me here. I've changed my route since then. I don't go through that canyon anymore. But sometimes, when it's real quiet, real late." Channel 19 still lights up. Same voice, same words. They locked me in. I even had the radio removed by a mechanic. Guess what? The voice still comes through. Not always, just when I'm alone, when the road gets too dark, and I'm starting to think it's not a transmission, it's a recording. You learn real quick as a trucker. There are only two things that matter at a stop: fuel and a clean shower. Anything else is a bonus. It was just after midnight when I pulled into a lonely TA off Interstate 90 in Montana. Bitter cold, snow on the ground. I'd been driving for 12 hours straight. My back ached, my eyes burned. All I wanted was to wash the road off me. There were no other rigs in the lot, just mine and an old Ford pickup with rust creeping up its sides. Inside, the guy at the counter looked half asleep, or maybe just off. He slid a shower token across the counter without a word. The token was heavier than usual, old, scratched up. I asked where the showers were. He didn't point or speak, just stared. Whatever. I was too tired to deal with weirdos. The hallway to the showers was dim. Fluorescent lights flickered above, casting long shadows on faded tile. I entered shower number 3, locked the door behind me, and turned on the hot water. Steam filled the room. For a moment, it felt normal. Then I looked in the mirror, and my reflection didn't move. I blinked. The reflection didn't. I tilted my head left. It stayed still. Then, slowly, it smiled. I stumbled backward, slipping slightly on the wet tile. My heart pounded in my throat. The reflection raised a hand, palm to the glass. I didn't move, but it did. Then it stepped away from the mirror. I don't remember unlocking the door, just bursting out into the hallway, barefoot and dripping. I ran to the front. The guy at the counter was gone. So was the pickup truck. I looked back down the hallway. The mirror in shower number 3 was pitch black, like the room behind it no longer existed. I left without drying off, drove with wet hair and soap still on my skin. The next day, I passed another trucker at a diner upstate. I mentioned the TA stop, said it gave me the creeps. He looked at me like I was nuts. There hasn't been a stop at that exit in 15 years. Place burned down. I laughed it off, but that night, in my cab, I found the shower token again. Same scratches, same weight, still warm. I threw it out the window and drove faster than I ever have in my life. But some nights, when I park, I see fog forming in my mirrors, and a face looking back at me. One that isn't mine. The desert plays tricks on you. Maybe it's the heat, or the silence, or the way everything looks the same in every direction. But after 20 years behind the wheel, I've learned to trust my instincts. And that night, my instincts were screaming. It was just past 1 a.m., somewhere outside Needles, California. I was running low on diesel, lower on sleep. The GPS showed nothing for 50 miles, just open Mojave and a lot of nothing. I was about to double back when I saw it. A glowing sign in the dark. Faded neon letters buzzing overhead. El Cielo Fuel, open 24 hours. There was no exit on the GPS, no road marker, just there it was, like it had been waiting. I pulled in. Gravel crunched beneath my tires. No other vehicles. The canopy light flickered. Inside the small storefront, I saw a lone cashier, a young woman with black hair standing like a statue behind the counter. I stepped in, bells jingling. She didn't move, didn't speak. I said, "Just the diesel on pump 2. She slowly turned her head and whispered, "Don't turn off your headlights." I blinked. What? She didn't repeat it. Just rang me up and slid the receipt forward. I filled up and got back in my cab, watching the building from my mirror. The lights inside flickered, then went out completely. And then I drove. That should have been the end of it. But 5 miles later, I noticed something moving just outside the beam of my headlights. Shapes, shifting, hissing, always staying in the dark. I hit the brights. Nothing there. Turned them back down. Movement again. I floored it. But the faster I drove, the more they multiplied. Long limbs, black eyes, crawling just outside the light. Every time I blinked, they got closer. I couldn't stop. The woman had warned me. "Don't turn off your headlights." Then I saw something ahead, a massive ditch or ravine. I slammed the brakes and veered off just in time. And when the truck stopped, the engine cut, and with it, the headlights. Darkness swallowed the road. I heard scratching, breathing, hands tapping on the glass from every side. I panicked, turned the key. Nothing. I whispered a prayer I barely remembered from childhood. And just as I felt a hand slide across my neck from the back seat, the engine roared to life. The headlights came on, and they vanished. I didn't stop again until I hit the Arizona line, and I've never, ever turned off my lights while parked since. Even now, when I rest in well-lit truck stops, I keep my high beams pointed into the lot, because I know what's out there, and they only move in the dark. North Dakota in January ain't for the faint of heart. I was running a load of frozen poultry through a whiteout, nothing but headlights and God's silence for 50 miles in either direction. My hands were stiff, my knees sore, and I hadn't eaten since dawn. I needed food, fuel, and 15 minutes of not fighting wind. Then I saw the lights, a battered old sign swinging in the storm. Stella's Diner and Truck Stop, hot food, warm beds. I pulled in. One other truck was parked, an old Peterbilt, dusted with snow. The place looked half dead, crooked neon, a rusted fuel pump, and a single light in the window. But inside, warm, real warm, the kind of heat that hits your bones. There were maybe 5 people seated in the diner, quiet types, faces pale, eyes sunken. A woman behind the counter looked up as I came in. She had dyed red hair, thick glasses, and the name tag said Stella. "You hungry, hun?" she asked. "Starving." She poured coffee and handed me a menu. "Sorry, no meat tonight," she said. I blinked. "What do you mean?" Stella leaned in, her voice low. "The freezer's full again." Then she walked away. I stared at her retreating figure, thinking maybe I misheard. Maybe she meant the freezer was out again. Power loss or something. But the way she said it... I glanced around. The other customers weren't eating, just sipping black coffee, watching me. I got up, muttered something about checking on my truck, and stepped out the side exit. The back of the diner had an old walk-in icebox, a metal door with frost around the hinges. A padlock dangled loose. I opened it. The cold inside hit me like a sledgehammer, but it wasn't just frozen steaks or pork, number bodies, 4 of them. One hanging from a meat hook by the ankle, 2 more slumped in the corner, ice-crusted, and one still breathing. A young guy, barely out of his 20s, eyes wide with frostbite. He whispered, "Please, help." Before I could move, I heard the crunch of boots behind me. "Stella, you weren't supposed to see that, hun." I ran, slipped once in the snow, but adrenaline kept me upright. I tore through the parking lot, jumped in my cab, locked the doors. As I fired up the engine, I saw the other patrons spilling out of the diner, slowly, like they'd done it before. They didn't run. They just walked calm, dragging chains, carrying knives, one with a hacksaw. I floored it. Didn't stop driving until I crossed the state line. I called the sheriff once I got signal, told them everything. They said that place, Stella's, burned down in '94. No survivors. No one ever rebuilt. But I know what I saw. And the next time you're in a snowstorm and a cozy little diner lights up ahead, keep driving, because sometimes the only thing on the menu is you. My brakes were acting up somewhere outside Lubbock, Texas. Not the kind of thing you ignore when you're hauling 20 tons at 70 miles an hour. I pulled into a dusty little truck stop with an attached service garage, neon sign buzzing like it was gasping for air. The mechanic on duty was a wiry guy with cigarette-stained fingers and a blank stare. "Bay 2, he grunted. "Pull in and kill the engine. I'll check you in the morning." I asked if he had a motel nearby. He just shook his head and said, "You're welcome to sleep in your rig." I parked inside Bay 2 and shut the engine off. The garage was dim and drafty. but at least I was out of the wind. I shut the sleeper curtains, curled into my bunk, and tried to sleep. That's when I heard it, pounding. 3 sharp hits, metal on metal. Bang, bang, bang. I sat up, heart already racing. It came again, louder this time. Bang, bang, bang. It was coming from the other side of the wall. Bay 3. I figured maybe the guy was working on something late, so I tried to settle down. But then, the screaming started. A man's voice, muffled, hoarse. "Help! Someone help me!" I jumped out of the sleeper, threw on my boots, and headed toward the garage office. The mechanic was gone, just an ashtray still smoking. I went back and tried the door to Bay 3. Locked tight. I shouted, "Hey, you all right in there?" The man screamed back, "Please, he's coming back, he's coming back." Then silence. I banged on the office door. Nothing, no one. I stepped outside into the lot. Cold wind, empty station. That damn sign still buzzing. Then I noticed something. The building only had 2 bays. Bay 1, Bay 2. No third door, no third entrance. But inside, something had been pounding. I went back in, shaking now. I pressed my ear to the wall between Bay 2 and where Bay 3 should have been. Breathing, low, rasping. Then a whisper, "He sees you now." I stumbled backward, heart pounding in my throat. There was a vent high on the wall. I climbed onto the workbench to peek through it. Inside, I saw a man tied to a chair, mouth duct-taped, shaking violently. But then the man looked up, and it was me. Same jacket, same face, same terrified expression. I blinked, and the figure vanished. The next morning, the mechanic acted like nothing happened. "No Bay 3, he said, not even looking at me. "Only 2. I got out of there fast. Didn't wait for the brake fix, just drove. Now, every time I stop for service, I check the building first, count the bays, listen for pounding, because I'm not sure who or what was tied to that chair, but I think it's still in there, and maybe one day I'll wake up and find myself on the wrong side of the wall. Thank you for joining us on the road tonight. If you made it this far, count yourself lucky. Not every traveler gets to leave these truck stops. The night is long, the road is darker, and sometimes the things waiting for you after mile marker 44 are far worse than running out of gas. Until next time, stay alert, lock your doors. And remember, there's no such thing as an ordinary stop on the highway of the damned. Subscribe for more true crime and horror stories every night, right here.